r/entitled parents. 5. Entitled mother changes baby's nappy on cafe table. I'm sitting in a small cafe in a village in Surrey, UK, having some lunch with a friend. It's a wealthy village, and has its fair share of 4x4 driving EMs and their SBs, but this one really takes the biscuit. Despite the cafe having a bathroom with space for baby changing, EM, having finished her coffee, puts her baby on the table, people around her eating, and it's a small space, removes its clothing and pulls off a shit-filled nappy, which she puts on the table, and proceeds to wet wipe her baby's bum. The smell was atrocious, other customers just shared horrified looks, and the young waitress just stood there and looked scared. I spoke up, just had to. "You do know there's a lavatory at the back," I said in my best headmistress voice. EM gave me a look that would curdle milk, and retorted, "Why don't you fuck off and mind your own fucking business?" I stood up, felt a red mist descending, which is a very rare event as I'm very laid back usually. I really wanted to take the shitty nappy and rub her face in it. My friend pipes up, Canadian, another mellow person, but the smell in a steaming hot small cafe was making everyone gag. People have got to eat off that table. I don't understand how you don't get that. EM starts swearing and shouting about us being a pair of fucking bitches, etc., and the baby starts wailing. She very roughly starts manhandling the poor kid into a nappy, roughly pulls up its leggings, and it screams, as she's obviously hurting it. Then she shoves the kid into its pushchair, knocks past several people's tables and seats, comes over to us by the door, hawks and spits a huge piece of phlegm onto our table. My face got sprayed on its trajectory down. Feeling murderous by now, I stood up to slap her, but my friend held onto my arm. I did tell EM she was disgusting, and should be banned from being in any cafe for her behavior. She raised her hand to hit me, thought better of it and stormed out, forcing the buggy with the poor child in it into the door, and took off down the street. And she left the shitty nappy right on the table for the staff to clean up. We haven't been to that cafe since. No idea why anyone would behave like that. Entitled mother gets mad that my dad offered to make me breakfast. I was with my dad for 4 days, and on the last day, he asked if I wanted some eggs. I said yes, and he started making them. Then his wife came into the kitchen. EM, why are you making her breakfast? Dad, because it's a nice thing to do. EM, she's old enough to make her own breakfast, she can do it herself. Dad, I'm doing something nice for my daughter, I'd do the same for you. EM, this is ridiculous. What 12-year-old can't make her own breakfast? I'm not 12. Dad, you know what? Fine. Name, come here. He gave me a bagel, and I made that myself. They later got in a fight about how I should not be living with my mother, and they were going to call Child Protective Services. All because my dad offered to make me breakfast on the last day I was with him. I kept it short, but there were more things said about me and him. Entitled woman demands I leave the bus because my eye is scaring her baby. For a bit of context, I was born with only 7 months in the womb instead of 9. That said, it appears the right side of my body didn't form in a fully correct way. It's not that I'm deformed and don't even look human. I just have some weird characteristics in my right side of the body, like a small birthmark. One of my fingers in the right hand always looks jammed, and the most noticeable, my right eye is a bit smaller than the other and has a tiny deformity in the cornea. That being said, my right eye sometimes goes a bit to the right when I get too concentrated or too distracted, and I cannot control it. It just happens randomly and stops randomly, and I've been told that when I'm on moving vehicles my eye seems to move alongside it, like when it jumps or trembles, my eye does too. But I've talked about this to many medics and doctors, and they've all told me the same. No surgery can fix it, and an eye patch would only get my eyesight worse. I have glasses by the way, like I cannot see, and by that I mean that I sometimes cannot read big letters on the other side of the road. So, having said that, let's move to the story. Here where I live, when you reach middle/high school, it's the same here. Secondary school, it's just basic and advanced/orientated. You no longer have PE classes at school, but on a club, paid by the school, so to move there, I use the bus. The ride there that day was quite peaceful, just one whining baby, but that's not a big deal. But oh, the ride home, that was not. After 15 minutes waiting in the sun, the bus finally arrived, and I hopped in, paid for my ride and sat down. Just a few stops later, enter the entitled mother and the entitled kid of this story. So I was sitting at almost the back of the bus, and this lady who looked like she was around her late 40s and this kid who looked to be 12 or 13 years walked to the back. The EM made a loud ahem noise, but I was not moving. There literally were seats next to her. It's just that they were the one passenger seats on the right side of the bus. Naturally, none of us moved. She just huffed and sat down. The kid with her didn't sit down and just went standing, until the woman that was sitting next to me left, so he asked if he could sit there. And I moved to let him pass. Now, this gave him a good look of my right eye, since he was next to it. At first he didn't seem to notice, but then, oh gosh. He just stares at me for a full 10 minutes, with a "this is so wrong" kind of face, then moves from the seat and up to his mom. He didn't even whisper. "EK, mom, did you see that girl's eye? It's weird. Is she disabled or something?" I pretended not to hear since I didn't want any trouble, but then this woman walks up to me. "Excuse me, may I see your eye for a moment?" I was sure of what she was doing, but my stupid ass decided to look at her anyway, and there she saw my eye. Oh gosh, disgusting. Would you mind not doing that so close to my baby? Me. Doing what now? Moving your eye like that. It's rude. Stop it. Me. No, I can't. I would if I could. Now this isn't a lie. I would stop it if I could control it. You brat. Stop lying. You kids these days are so uneducated. Now the lady's yelling made the driver move to stop, and well, stop, and walk up to us. Driver, what seems to be the problem here? This brat is scaring my baby. Just look at her moving her eye like that. You should remove her from this bus. I didn't fully hear the entire conversation, since the driver made her walk away from me to talk, but after almost 15 minutes of her yelling, kicking, screaming and pointing in my direction, she just grabbed her kid's hand and stormed out of the bus. The driver just continued without a word. It happened like 40 minutes ago and I'm so confused. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more like it. Comment below if you know any subreddits that you would like featured on the channel. See you in the next video, fellow Roma.